Okay, we are recording. Hello, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. It is, let's see, Thursday, March 13th. Almost spring. Last weekend was daylight savings. Yeah, hope hope that didn't ruin anyone's sleep. But yeah, today I just wanted to talk about a few books that I picked up. I've been doing some travel over the last few weeks, and yeah, I just wanted to talk about a little bit about what's going on. I can maybe talk about some of the business stuff as well. But yeah, just give a quick update. I think every 2 weeks I'll just kind of sit down in front of the camera. Honestly, I don't have any script or anything. Yeah, and we'll just sort of go just like that. Okay, so let's see, where should I start? So maybe I'll just give a quick update. So I have done 2 trips in the last couple weeks. So I first went to Portland. I was visiting my brother. That was a really awesome trip. The Pacific Northwest is very, very different from the East Coast. I can definitely say that. But yeah, it was a really awesome trip. It was my first time to the Pacific Northwest as well. And I just happened to go at a time where the weather was really nice. So it's just perfect timing. And I don't want to say that I brought the sun from from the East Coast, because that definitely wasn't the case. But yeah, it just happened to work out where as soon as I got there, it was 60, 70 degrees for the couple days that I was there. Yeah, it was just such an awesome experience. I think that just as a reminder that people just live very differently, even just around America and around the States. And so it's a very different place depending on where you are. And I think just being in that environment, being with family, meeting new people, I think it just highlighted the importance of relationships, and yeah, just being around loved ones, and how much you can learn by just having a change of perspective and all of that. Yeah, really enjoyed that trip. It definitely, I would say, highlighted the importance of relationships and sort of investing in relationships. And I mean, not to be too much of a high level thinker, but it definitely made me think about sort of it's kind of an asymmetry, thinking about relationships and meeting people, and how that sort of compounds over the long term, the kind of more effort that you put into relationships and meeting. I guess this is basically I'm just saying networking, but in a less transactional way. But yeah, the more effort that I guess I realized that I put into relationships and meeting people and investing in my family and in loved ones, the more it seems to, the more you seem to sort of get out of it, and just seems to be very asymmetric. Maybe losing sleep or doing a few overnight plane rides. Leads to meeting a ton of new people, and obviously the more connected you are, the better off you are. So yeah, I guess that sort of relates to this YouTube channel as well. But anyway, yeah. So I was in Portland, and for those of you who probably know that on this channel I have been reading some guin over the past few years. It's crazy that I think this channel is over a year old now, but I guess that it is. So yeah, so obviously she lived in Portland, spent a lot of time in Portland. And so I picked up a few of her books. The most recent one that I read was The Wizard of Earthsea. So that was the first book in the Earthsea series. I don't even know where it is. I think I might have read it on my Kindle. But I picked up the two that follow that. So Tombs of Aduan, and then also The Farthest Shore. So yeah, I'm super excited. They kind of have pretty vintage covers. So this is from Powell's. If anyone's ever been to Portland, Powell's Bookshop. It's this massive bookshop. Honestly, the biggest bookshop that I've ever been to, that has a cafe, and it has 4 floors, and it has just all the books you could ever want. Honestly, it also makes me think about further down the line, I think that a city with large, or maybe not even a large, but just a nice independent bookshop that can just be a one of those third places. I think is really important. It's just really important, because that's my default go-to. If there's a bookstore nearby, I'll basically go there multiple times a week, and just hang out there and obviously meet people and be able to participate in readings and any events that they put on. So that's really cool. I know in New York, there's McNally Jackson, which is always throwing events, and it's just an awesome space to just be around other people and be around other curious people, and yeah, just be able to absorb a lot of these different discussions, especially as someone who kind of works in tech. It's I just feel I'm always sort of in this bubble, especially with all this AI stuff. And so I feel the more that I can sort of identify and take advantage of, and intentionally sort of pursue these spaces where I'm outside of the whole tech space and I'm more in literary spaces. I think it's just overall always really advantageous. So really enjoy that. But yeah, Powell's Bookstore, definitely would recommend. And yeah, I picked the two of these up, and I think they were both used as well. Honestly, like you can see this cover, it's just really cool. I also just happened to pick up the same book twice, but this was just me being silly. But you can see there's like two different covers here. So yeah, I'm not sure when I'll get to these, but I picked them up, and yeah, in celebration of Ursula Guin. And I also picked up a few other ones from her. So I was like, okay, I'm in Portland, and I gotta pick up as much Le Guin as I can. But I also picked up The Dispossessed, which I think I'll probably read. Yeah, at some point in the next few weeks. I don't know how I'm gonna structure all this, but yeah, honestly, I just kind of read as I just kind of let my curiosity guide me these days. But yeah, I did pick this one up. I'm sure a lot of people are a big fan of this book. And then I also picked up one of her kind of like nonfiction pieces that I think is a collection of essays. And this one is called Words That Might Matter. And so yeah, I just love to do, I guess, like a deep dive of Le Guin over the next few months. And if you saw my last video, I was talking a lot about like Kendrick Lamar and sort of studying craft and studying mastery and all of those things. So I think it probably makes sense to sort of maybe pick a few people that sort of stand out as like role models across a few different spaces. Obviously, I guess I kind of maybe have those people in the tech space, but in the art space, I think that's really awesome. This is a side note, but I also went to a talk by Lauren Groff yesterday. For those who don't know, she's like an American novelist. And that was also really awesome. Like I just really, really enjoyed that. And she's just like such an authentic personality. And I guess that also just relates to what I was saying about trying my best to put myself in event spaces where I'm around more bookish, literary people that are just sort of like not really in the tech AI space. I think it's also really helpful to kind of see how other people are sort of thinking about this stuff. And honestly, yeah, I guess some of like the drawbacks of the technology. Obviously, like I'm like a huge like optimist and very optimistic about the capabilities, but I guess that introduces like bias where I'm probably much more likely, I just find myself much more likely to be excited about the positives and maybe paying less attention to the negatives. So yeah, I just think it's like helpful to kind of be in those spaces. And yeah, I got the chance to meet her yesterday, so that was awesome. And then let's see, what else did I pick up? So I picked up this book called The Lessons of History by Will and Ariel Durant, and I think this one is pretty popular amongst like people that actually haven't like studied history like formally. But basically, it's this like concise like 100-page book from these two Pulitzer Prize winning historians from the 20th century. And I think this book came out in 1968, but it sort of distills a lot of the like major themes, and they're like the major themes that they've discovered and sort of written about in history into 100 pages. And I really like any time that I can kind of get my hands on something that's like sort of like thematically distilled, because I think that like thinking about things in terms of themes is it's really beneficial, and it kind of helps you identify the interconnectedness of different domains. And I think that like sort of like themes and thinking about principles and thinking about those things that are maybe slightly like a layer of abstraction higher than the specific context or the specific like details. But thinking about things in terms of like repeating patterns and themes, I think is really helpful, because it's just maybe like a more flexible way of thinking about things, where you can sort of translate your understanding from one place to another. And I tend to find that really works well for me, especially in areas that I'm not like an expert in. Obviously, I'm not like an expert historian or anything like that. So yeah, I picked this one up. That one is also super cool. I'm trying to see, did I have any other books picked up? I don't think so. I've been reading, like, I'm usually sort of on the, personal development grind, so I have been reading a few others, just a few other kind of like financial health like books. So this one called like Your Money or Your Life, and I'm also like rereading this other one called I'll Teach You to Be Rich, just to kind of get like my finances in order and make sure that I'm on top of that, because obviously that stuff is important. And then also have been reading, let's see here. Oh, this was another one that I picked up. This was another one that I picked up. It's called The Five Types of Wealth. And this one is written by a writer called Sahil Bloom. And this is definitely just like a self-help book. But the reason why I picked it up is because actually while I was in Portland, I just found myself like, I don't know, just feeling a lot of imposter syndrome and comparing myself to a lot of people. And so I picked it up. Like whenever I'm sort of in that state, I'll always like try and find a book or try and find some literature or something in psychology or something that's kind of just like helps me change my like mindset and my point of view, and I guess my like frame of reference in the way that I'm thinking about things. And that's why I like always let myself indulge in a book or in anything like that, because I know that sometimes all it takes is just a little bit of inspiration to sort of propel yourself out of a bad headspace or a less helpful headspace. So yeah, I picked that one up, and I think I haven't really like made it through all the way. I think I've maybe read like the first like 50 pages or anything like that. But essentially, the whole thing is that it's basically just about like how like true wealth in life is multifaceted, and it's about proper relationships and physical health and spirituality and purpose and all of that beyond just financial health, and how we can oftentimes find ourselves on the on the wheel, the hamster wheel, or the whatever it is. What is it? The hamster wheel of just like chasing things that aren't actually what we want. The idea of like miswanting. So the idea that we think that there are things that are going to bring us a lot of happiness and joy, but then we actually get them and we realize that it wasn't actually what we were looking for. And so I think like the more that I can sort of try and, obviously it's not really anything new, but the more that I can try and remind myself of these things, because it's like very easy to like forget about them, especially in obviously the world that we live in right now, where a lot of our day-to-day is kind of responding to this, like to a stimulus. It's responding to things that we find on the internet or our phones or notifications, or we're just so tapped into things that honestly just like having space to kind of think and reflect and take a step back from things is just like always really, really, really helpful. And so I'll always be a fan of these kind of like self-help books, even though obviously I think a lot of the time they're sort of putting forth ideas and maybe recycling them and maybe like wording them in a different way. But I think it's always like a helpful reminder to think about like the things that truly matter and the things that are most important. And on that day, maybe the last thing I'll say before I sort of wrap this up. I know this is a pretty quick video, but yeah, I don't really have too much to cover. I'll cover much more in the newsletter that comes out this weekend. So hopefully, if anyone saw that 2 weeks ago, hopefully people enjoyed it. If you have any feedback, just let me know. But the other thing that I wanted to say was, just honestly, just talking about like space. And when I talk about space, I guess I don't even mean just like space for like relaxation or like space to like recharge. I actually just mean like space, honestly, just to contemplate and to think and to allow insights to sort of like bubble up to the surface. And this was actually something that Lauren Groff was talking about yesterday at her talk, which was that like how oftentimes she just allows like a lot of these like book ideas or the ideas that she might have for a novel to sort of like simmer, and then she might be interacting with a new piece of art, whether it be a painting or another piece of literature or something that then collides with whatever is sort of brewing in her unconscious, and then that like brings about this moment of inspiration and of clarity about like what to write about next. And I think there's just so much value to that, and just thinking about like how obviously like how distracted the world is now, but just cultivating these like spaces to kind of just like allow things to simmer in the background of the subconscious, of the unconscious, and not always having things in the forefront, but allowing things to simmer sort of in the background, such that when we come across the right material or when we come across the right thing, that it sort of has this opportunity to sort of collide and like have like insight sort of strike us. I think that's probably been one of the most powerful things, in addition to also kind of like doing these trips, has just been how like a little change of perspective can allow those sort of like insights to really bubble up to the surface. So I guess like in summary, that's another thing that I'm really trying to pay attention to, is sort of like cultivating this space for contemplation and autonomy. And I think that's one of the things that I think is mostly really, really striking about the difference now, kind of doing this whole entrepreneurial thing versus when I was in my job previously. It's just how much more autonomy that has given me. And I think I'm absolutely just someone who really thrives on being able to just kind of like having space for myself and kind of being in an unstructured environment. That way I can create the structure for myself that I think like works best for me. And yeah, I mean, obviously I don't have it all figured out. Like I would like to, be more, or ideally like post videos more regularly. But I think for 2 weeks is fine now. But write more regularly or do all of these things. So obviously I don't have all the systems figured out. But I do think that I'm a big believer that like if I can build up the momentum and start to get things correctly, that things can sort of compound over the long term. And I sort of like bet on that, and I'm betting on my ability to sort of figure things out in the long term, and kind of like small decisions to compound over the long term. And yeah, I just feel like I'm only really able to do that because of this kind of like new autonomy that I have now. And I think it just informs, like, even if I was to kind of go back to a role, to a more structured path, how it just informs, I think, how I would emphasize autonomy, regardless of the kind of role that I was in, even if I was, back in a normal job. But yeah, so I think that's pretty much everything. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. I will see everyone in 2 weeks. And yeah, be on the lookout if you're curious about the. I'll have like a more formalized, crystallized, newsletter out of sort of what the last 2 weeks have been like, and more concrete reflections and the things that I've been thinking about. Honestly, it's been a lot about like balance and moderation, honestly, and about the like whole like Buddhist idea of like the middle way, but then also embracing suffering and embracing hardship, and how maybe like hardship and all of that might be, actually kind of like the key to a good life, is to like sort of embrace that hardship. And yeah, I think that's also been sort of a mindset shift for me. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Looking forward to seeing you in the next one. And if you have any suggestions or any feedback or anything, just feel free to leave it down in the comments. I will obviously respond to all of them. And yeah, just thank you so much for being here, and talk to you soon. See ya.